Hey guys, what's going on? ProfessorSnipe here. We're doing another episode of Versus today, comparing two very strong LMGs, the QBB-95 and the MG36. This was a popular request and I got so many comments of this and was actually a top comment on one of my Versus episodes. Getting right into it with the table of contents, you'll notice some similarities like the ammo and the RPM, but you'll also notice that many of the QBB's aspects are red, meaning disadvantage, and you'll realize that many of the MG36's aspects are green, giving it the advantage. But I have to say that both weapons can top each other in their respective categories, and if properly used, they can both be very dominating weapons on the battlefield. The iron sights of both the MG36 and the QBB are nice. This is side-by-side comparison of them, and you can see the different qualities of both of them. Personally, I do prefer the QBB's iron sights because I feel more comfortable using it, and they just feel better to me, and they just feel thinner, better, and more accurate when I use it. And the MG36's iron sights just feel average to me, but I feel it works better if you put a red dot sight on the MG36. To mention something, the aim down sight time of the MG36 is 0.4 seconds, while the QBB is a little bit slower at 0.6. Next up, we got reload time, and this side-by-side comparison and stats do mention that the QBB is the winner here by 0.2 seconds, meaning that the QBB has a reload time of 5.1 seconds, while the MG36's reload time is 5.3 seconds. Not a huge difference there, but still something to mention about. For ammunition, both weapons are tied at 3 magazines of 60 bullets, totaling up to 180 total bullets, and both weapons have the same rate of fire of 600 RPM, which is rounds per minute. For bullet velocity, the QBB has 550 meters per second, while the MG36 has a surprising 700 meters per second, and that's very good. And for people running down hills or with fast movement in a car or something like that, you can pick them off really easily with great velocity like that, and especially if people are driving helicopters and you're just trying to pilot snipe them, that's really good. The MG36 is really good for that type of encounter. And for bullet deviation, the MG36 has less, while the QBB has a little bit more, but if you learn to tap fire or burst fire, which is recommended at ranges with an LMG, you'll learn to control that, that deviation, and with time and with a good stock that focuses on deviations such as the balance stock, that should work out really greatly and be no problem. Now to follow up deviation, we're going to talk about recoil, and I personally feel like the recoil of the QBB is a bit better for me, and that's because I like those types of upwards right recoil patterns and I control them relatively well, and needless to say, it's not the best nor the worst, but for the MG36 it's a bit more of a recoiling gun, but get to know that it's a general recoil and it doesn't have a specific pattern like the QBB. So one other thing to mention is that depending on what stock you'll be using, you can modify the deviation, recoil, or both. So you gotta choose with what you have and what you want and what you're good at controlling. So personally, I don't think that the deviation of the MG36 is bad at all, so if you focus a bit on recoil, that should make a more accurate gun. But if you're that type of person that's 100% perfect recoil management type of guy, if you just want to focus on deviation, go ahead and do that because you'll have a very low deviating gun with good attachments. One thing that I included was the level unlock, which is 18 for the MG36 and 21 for the QBB, and I also put up the price, which is 1,249 funds for the MG36 and 2,499 funds for the QBB, making the QBB more expensive and a higher unlock. But depending on the time you're watching this video, there might still be some deals out there where you can get the MG36 with Viper mags for a discounted price, so I just thought I'd point that out in case you're wondering. One other thing that I find important to mention about the QBB versus the MG36 is the screen blockage, and I notably would only do this with the LMGs because they seem to be the biggest weapons, they're huge, bulky weapons, but the QBB is something really different. It's ginormous, and this weapon takes a whole chunk out of your screen. Adding a sight to the QBB makes it even worse, and that's why I recommend only the iron sights. So if you were to use something like an M145, that would make the gun really well, like when you're using it at long range, but at the same time, that completely ruins your whole right portion of the screen, and that's really bad. So imagine you're running or you're just strafing and somebody's coming at your right side, you won't be able to see him. So that's something that's really bad about the QBB. And the MG36 doesn't have that problem, and it works even better with sights, so I don't see an issue there. And lastly, to compare damage, the QBB has the advantage here, As you can see from the table, notice that the damage is higher and also the range is different. I don't want to go too much in detail about the range, but it's increased for the QBB, meaning that, for example, close range is 0 to 15 meters for the MG36, while close range for the QBB is actually 0 to 22 meters. So either way, that shouldn't bother you or confuse you too much, because all this means is that the QBB has better damage no matter what range you're using it at. Now, to throw in a winner, this is completely biased and subjective, and this is my own opinion and preference. Yours might be different, but my favorite gun between those two would be the QBB-95. For the reason that I don't like rushing with the medic class, and the MG36 tends to make me do so. And I love the QBB's recoil pattern and the iron sights. I find it much easier for me to get headshots with the QBB, and its damage is very, very appealing to me. And I just love the fact that I also have that slight reload time advantage. Sure, you know, the QBB might not be the best because of the screen blockage, the aim down sight time, the projectile velocity, but if you just sit back, relax, and take a deep breath behind cover and allow you some time to get accuracy, you know, I feel like it's a very deadly weapon when used properly. However, this doesn't mean that the MG36 is completely useless. It's an amazing weapon and overall a beast. Anyone can just pick it up and feel comfortable at home using it. It's cheaper and easier to get and has some appealing stats to some compact users. With that being said, this concludes this episode of Battlefield Play for Free Versus. As you know, these episodes take a ton to make because of editing, research, preparing, and I made 2 Versus episodes in 1 week, which is something I've never ever done in my life. So I normally release them once a month, so if you did enjoy and want to see more, please leave a like rating and share this video with the community. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'm off to Burger King.